Hello, everyone. Welcome back to WorkTech. We have more M&A news. Payscale, a compensation data provider, announced the acquisition of CURO, a pay equity and compensation management tech provider. And I'm joined by Gerry O'Neill, CEO of CURO. Welcome, Gerry.
Thank you, George. Listen, good to be invited on, and happy to share our story with you.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it's a really interesting deal. I'm really excited about this category, in particular, pay equity. It's been such a challenge for so long. And I'd like to talk both about CURO and helping understand this category as well as the deal. And let's start, if you could give everyone a sense about yourself and CURO and Payscale and what you do.
Okay, so my name is Gerry O'Neill. This is my second startup, if you like, in the HR tech space. I founded a company called VebNet back in year 2000, and that was a web-based flexible benefit enrollment administration platform. And over the course, right through to we sold the business in 2008. To a big life and pension company in the UK, but we built a great platform technology. We sold the product all over the world, in the US, EMEA, Asia Pac, and it was disruptive technology at the time, and it was a market leading product. And then 2008, when we sold to Standard Life, Ruth Thomas, who was one of the founders of CURO. Ruth and I got together, and she said to me, she was a reward, expert, and she said, look, we should think about compensation management or compensation planning technology, because everyone's doing this stuff in spreadsheets. And I've got to say, at the time, George, I was somewhat surprised that was the case. And but we went and we chatted to our top 20 VebNet clients, and all bar one, and these are big companies, big global companies with tens of thousands of employees, are doing this stuff in spreadsheets. And even to this day, there's a large bucket of the market, or once a year they will dust off their spreadsheets for the the annual focal review. So anyway, we set out to build a product, and you can imagine building a product for that's configurable. And that was one of the things that we absolutely were insistent on, that whether it was simple comp or complex comp, we wanted the product to be 100% configurable for all clients. So we sell that product into, we've got, over 100, I think 110, 12 clients in comp management, big names, like EY, Amerigas, Sony Music, half our clients are in the US, just under half are in UK, Europe, and a handful out in Asia Pac. But it's, you're trying to build a product that's configurable, and for certain sectors, like professional services, finance and legal, some of those benefit, rules and eligibility criteria and approval hierarchies can be, hugely complex. So it was a big achievement to get to that point. And Payscale, as a lot of your listeners will know, is, we were aware of Payscale in the market for the last 10 years. They were then bought out by one of the big private equity houses, Francisco Partners, in 2019. Scott took over as CEO, new exec team, and the focus was very much on building that business from solid base, where they provided market data and related technologies for companies to benchmark data. And then earlier on this year, in March of this year, Payscale and PayFactors merged. And PayFactors we were more familiar with. They're Boston-based, but similar business to Payscale, and that merger, I've got to say, looking at it, is really strong set of economics in terms of you're taking two companies that compete against one another, consolidating data, consolidating technology, and creating a market leader predominantly in the US.
Yeah. So it's really interesting how this all came together this year. If I could focus on CURO for a minute, reviewing. I'm not intimate with CURO, but taking a look at it, there's a big focus on pay equity, and I'm curious, how has the company evolved into that? Like, where did that start to become a focus, and and what's your, I guess, what's your approach there, if you will?
So that really, I mean, for the first, many years of the business, it was all about comp planning technology. And then it was about late 2018, Ruth and I started to look at, what was something that was, was growing momentum and, and awareness, and that was around pay equity. And we decided to invest beginning of 2019, and we launched a pay equity product, actually, in Q1 in 2020. And, historically, if you look at, how the whole thing has evolved, virtually every company has got a pay equity legacy issue, and one that's built up over years and decades. But the challenge they've got is they can't quantify it. So if you ask companies, do you have a pay equity issue? Can you, and to what extent? That's when they start to struggle. And the agenda, I think, for a lot of organizations was avoiding litigation. And if you look at, there was an increase in, media coverage on pay, pay inequity. There was all these class action lawsuits, and suddenly, over a short period of time, it became an issue. And what's been really interesting, is to watch it over the last, I think, 9-12 months. The agenda has moved from, let's avoid, risk management, or let's avoid litigation, to a recognition that actually this is the right thing for companies to do. We have this legacy issue. We need to get our heads around the extent to which that is the case, and we need to come up with a remediation agenda to resolve it. And we need to keep pay equity first and foremost, in our minds as we hire people, as we promote, as we transfer, going forward. So big shift. And one of the things that that happened over the course of the pandemic is, the people who were, paid at the lower end of the spectrum were worse, were more impacted, as a result of, job cuts and everything else. So pay equity became, over that, 6-9 months, became an even bigger issue, but a much more visible one, reinforced by what's, all the kind of social justice, movements and visibility and awareness. It is now, a top, it's a top 3, if not top 2, focus for C-suites across all sectors and all markets.
Yeah. It's, it sounds really simple when you talk about it, paying everybody in the same job at the same level, the same rate, right? And it's, doing the same work. But to your point, there's a lot of complexity. Now, I'm not absolving, those decisions that were made along the way that compounded the problem. But what are the biggest issues that you run into, that those legacy problems that you talked about? Was it I remember back in the days of being a recruiter, and we're building teams, and we had we had big binders with compensation data, and we'd categorize the employee, and we'd go look, and we'd have the midpoint and the high point. And then if the employee was a certain type of engineer or a certain type of, marketing professional, and they said, no, this is what we want, they generally got what they asked for. Would throw all that data out the window. And I can see how over the years that just creates this.
It's just compounded over the years, George. And, and the thing with pay equity analysis is, there are legitimate and good reasons why people get paid different amounts of money. So things like, it could be tenure, education, location, performance, are all, what we call legitimate factors. So when you do the analysis, what you're trying to do is you're trying to look at the high, the high level, or what we call the unadjusted numbers. You're looking at different, groups of similar workers that we refer to as cohorts. But you're also doing, the regression analysis. What that says is, once you've identified, a pay gap, you've got to split that out into, how much of that is driven by legitimate factors, and how much is driven by things that are, that you got to address. And so when we do the analysis in our product, that will actually highlight, and it's, to a large extent, it's things like, gender, diversity, race, all those things. And what the product does is say, look, you've got this high level pay gap, X percentage of that is driven by factors that you need to remediate against. here is the remediation agenda. So if you want to get rid of the product, or sorry, get rid of the issue, this is what you're going to pay people. And companies can opt to do that over single cycle, multiple cycles. But having both products, pay equity and comp management, what we're seeing is companies want to do the pay equity analysis, and then they build that remediation agenda into the annual comp review. So when you adjust salaries as part of the annual comp review, a big factor, one of the factors you're taking into account is, has this person been affected historically by pay inequity based on factors that you need to address.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the power of having both products. You're not doing these things in isolation. It actually blends together very well.
Well, and having that data and that remediation plan is becoming increasingly important, especially with the emergence of ESG, right?
Yep.
As well as in the US, the SEC is starting to ask for a human capital metric. So if you've put in your 10K that you're committed to equity and fair pay, and you've within the next year or two, you're going to have to demonstrate, tell a story about where you are and where you're headed with this.
You are, and you're absolutely spot on. I mean, these numbers and this type of analysis is going to be baked into the agenda going forward. It's not going to be, let's sort it out over the next 2 years, then it goes away. This is with us forever. Yeah. Right. So there's the big, kind of one-off remediation, but then there's the ongoing, ensuring that whatever you do in terms of people management and pay and promotion, all the rest, you're not negatively affecting your pay equity stats. So it's with it forever.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all of that perspective and the history around the companies coming together. It's context that really helps understand, why this makes sense, these companies coming together. And let's dig into the deal a little bit more. How the audience here is a mix of practitioners and leaders, as well as tech providers and entrepreneurs. So there's always a curiosity about how does this come about? I think you touched on it a little bit. It seems like there was momentum around these issues and momentum with other acquisitions that Payscale had made, but how did it come about for you?
Well, we'd reached the stage, if you like, as a lot of companies do, where we had spent, the thick end of 10 years, building 2 great products, getting market traction, and the quality of clients we've got is exceptional, and again, right across the different geographies. But we reached a point where companies need, if you want to scale, you can either scale slowly, organically, or you can become part of a bigger organization. And the attraction for with Payscale was not just the merger with PayFactors, because effectively that company now is the biggest market data provider in the US, but it was also the adjacency of what they do and what we do. We had the comp management, we had pay equity, they had the market data, they had job leveling technology, they had a great client, they've got over 10,000 clients. And you think, actually, when you pull, all 3 bits together, this becomes, not just, it becomes a one-stop shop for companies, but it also is a massive differentiator in the market. And it's when you start to look at that and you can see huge growth potential, then it was a natural fit for us, and and the deal was concluded last week.
Yeah. Well, congrats again. And it sounds like from a product perspective, it's one of the and market perspective, it's 1 + 1 = 3, right? There's not a lot. It
definitely is. Yeah.
The overlap is really alignment. It's really the connection between, it's the continuum from a comp perspective, and data that's needed if you're doing comp strategy and pay right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, I think the 2 products plus the market data, the job leveling technology, and Payscale are now looking at how they consolidate the different technology offerings of what was Payscale and PayFactors. So again, there's going to be a compelling set of economics there, and you add in our 2 products, then the plan is to sell to new clients, but really to focus on the existing 10,000 where these are clients who are buying market data to do comp reviews.
Mhm.
And, then, the natural next step for them is to buy technology to manage those reviews on.
Yeah. So that's a great segue to my next thought, which is, what will the impact for customers be? It sounds like there are obviously some new capabilities on both sides, but how do you see that impacting the users?
Well, I think I always think a good litmus test is the reaction you get to the press release, the announcement, and so on. And the reaction from our clients was, "Wow, this is amazing." We source market data from. A number of them source it from from Payscale, but others will get data from Willis Towers Watson, whoever else. So the thought of the opportunity to bring all that together, and it's not just you're buying different products or services or whatever. There's a plan internally, to integrate the platforms so that you can, have embedded market data within pay equity and within comp management. And that's what, a lot of companies are looking for. If they can get a consolidated, integrated solution with all the different components, then, that is very attractive rather than, sourcing, different products and services from different companies. So, this is a unique in the market, and if organizations want all that, then, this is where Payscale is where you go.
Yeah.
And, again, Payscale customers, they're buying data, to a large extent to run the comp review. Now they've got access to, the best comp planning product in the market and pay equity as well. So the reaction from their clients has been, just huge excitement. Great.
That's great. How about, I always like to ask about the employees. It's a constituency that gets, it doesn't get overlooked internally, but when we talk about these deals, I'm curious to hear what's the impact or opportunity for them here?
Well, I think, again, as a small company, you think about, we're a 50-person company. We're now part of a 500-person company. So immediately that, we're part of a bigger organization, and that will create opportunities for employees of CURO. Over the years, we've built, a really, really strong team. And part of what Payscale are buying is not just the products, the two platforms, but it's also the team that goes with it. And again, that's the compelling mix that we've developed over the years. So for them, there's huge, personal development opportunities, and actually an opportunity to, we're hugely proud of what we've achieved, but now there's an opportunity to really expand the footprint of both. And I think that's something, I think we're tremendously excited about. It's a great opportunity. And it's I think it's good news all around.
Yeah. So where can folks find out more about the products, about the deal? Where should they go to learn more?
They should go to Payscale.com.
Okay.
The CURO website, we're now in an integration period, but the CURO website's still there. So if they want to find out detail, on product sets, on case studies, on all all those things, then go to curocomp.com. The announcements on both websites in terms of the deal, and I think between the two you get a really good people get a really good sense of the blend, the compelling logic for the acquisition, and the mix of products and services that are now going to be under the Payscale brand.
Great. Well, congrats again. It sounds like a great deal.
Thank you.
Makes a lot of sense for the market. It's really timely, and I appreciate your time. I know this is a busy time for you. Thanks for doing this.
But it's super exciting, George, and I really want to thank you for the opportunity to share the story with you.
Oh, my pleasure. And thanks everyone for tuning in.
Okay, thank you very much.